In 1863, during the excavation of what would become the London Underground, the world's first metropolitan subway system, construction workers tunnelling beneath the City of London broke through a wall of medieval brick and discovered, some 12 feet below the street, a perfectly intact Roman road. The road was not a ruin, it was not collapsed, not buried under centuries of deliberate fill, not damaged by the weight of buildings above it. It was a road, clean, flat, still exhibiting the characteristic slight arch of Roman engineering that allowed rainwater to run off to either side. The stones were fitted with the precision you would expect from a civilization that had invested enormous resources in infrastructure, and it had been there, sealed and untouched since, according to the official record, somewhere around the year 410 CE, when Roman administration withdrew from Britain. 14 centuries, beneath a city of millions, completely intact. The engineers noted it in their logs, continued digging, and the road was eventually destroyed to make way for the tunnel. That detail, the road was destroyed, is the one that is easy to overlook, and it is the detail we are going to keep returning to. What happened beneath London is not unique. It is not even unusual. In the late 1950s, when construction crews broke ground on what would become one of the expansion corridors of the Paris metro, they encountered, at a depth inconsistent with medieval construction, a series of vaulted stone chambers. The chambers were mortared with a precision that baffled the engineers assigned to assess them, because the composition of the mortar was not consistent with any known medieval recipe for the region. The chambers were photographed, catalogued, and then collapsed to allow the project to proceed on schedule. In Istanbul, the city that was once Constantinople, and before that Byzantium, the excavation for a new transit hub called Marmaray in the early 2000s uncovered not just Roman foundations, but an entire harbour district, with stone warehouses and quays still showing the marks of toolwork. The project was delayed by years. Archaeologists worked the site, documented what they could, and then the construction resumed. The harbour is gone now. In the city of Mexico City, built over the former Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan, workers laying utility infrastructure routinely break into chamber systems that predate the Spanish colonial period. Many of these chambers, per engineers who have worked on the projects, are dry, structurally sound, and in some cases appear to connect to other chambers that have not yet been mapped. Notice what these cases share. They are not stories about discoveries that changed our understanding of history. They are stories about discoveries that were absorbed, processed, and covered back over. The machinery of modern construction encountered something old, noted it, and continued. And this would be entirely unremarkable. Cities are built on cities. This is well understood, except for one specific quality that keeps appearing in these accounts. The stonework is frequently better than what came after it. This is worth sitting with for a moment. When Roman concrete, the specific formulation used in harbour structures across the Mediterranean, was analysed by a team of researchers at the University of California, Berkeley, they discovered something that has since been confirmed by multiple independent studies. Roman marine concrete, submerged in seawater for 2,000 years, had not degraded. It had, in a very specific sense, gotten stronger. The seawater had caused a mineral reaction within the concrete that created new crystalline structures reinforcing the original matrix from within. Our modern Portland cement, by contrast, begins degrading in seawater within about 50 years. The researchers published their findings. The headline was framed as a curiosity, a charming fact about the ingenuity of ancient Romans. But the question that was not prominently asked in the coverage was the simpler one. How did anyone arrive at that specific formulation without extensive systematic experimentation? How did a civilization without modern chemistry, without spectrographic analysis, without controlled laboratory conditions, arrive at a concrete formula so sophisticated that we spent most of the 20th century not understanding why it worked? The official answer is that they were skilled empiricists, that through centuries of trial and error, Roman builders found combinations that worked and continued using them. This is almost certainly true, and yet the Byzantine historian Procopius, writing in the 6th century, described watching workers in Constantinople attempt to repair sections of older Roman infrastructure, sections he explicitly identifies as predating the Roman period, and failing. The workers could not match the techniques. They could identify the result, but not reproduce the process. Procopius treated this as a minor embarrassment and moved on. Most historians have treated it the same way. In Paris, beneath the roughly 12 million people who live in and around the modern metropolitan area, there exist approximately 300 kilometers of mapped tunnel. The operative word is mapped. The Paris catacombs, which most visitors understand as the famous ossuary, are actually only a small and relatively modern portion of a much larger network. The majority of the tunnel system was created by limestone quarrying that began in the medieval period and continued through the 18th century. The stone quarried from beneath Paris was used to build Paris. This is documented. This is not disputed. What is somewhat less widely discussed is the section of the network that appears to predate the medieval quarrying. There are chambers within the system whose walls show tool marks inconsistent with medieval iron chisels. There are passages whose angles and dimensions do not correspond to quarrying logic. They are not shaped by extraction, but by transit, as though they were intended for movement rather than mining. There are intersections in the network where the older passages clearly predate the later ones, because the later ones were cut through them and around them, as though the medieval quarrymen encountered something already present and worked around it. The official position of the Paris Municipal Authority responsible for the catacombs, the IGC, or Inspection Générale des Carrières, is that these anomalies are the result of early, poorly documented quarrying. This may be entirely correct, but the documentation that would confirm this either does not exist or has not been made accessible to independent researchers. In Edinburgh, Scotland, a similar situation exists beneath what is known as the Royal Mile. The street runs along a ridge, and on either side of it, the medieval city was built on a system of stone structures that extend down the slope, closes, chambers, entire forgotten streets. In the 1990s, significant portions of this underground city were open to the public as a tourist attraction. They are called Mary King's Close. What the tours do not typically emphasize is that the structures open to visitors represent only a portion of what exists. The section open to the public was selected partly for accessibility, and partly, according to some accounts, because other sections of the underground network are structurally integrated with modern buildings in ways that make their investigation complicated. What is known is that when developers attempted to extend into certain sections in the late 20th century, they encountered walls that their equipment had difficulty breaching, not because the walls were especially thick, but because whatever they were made of was exceptionally dense. Now here is where careful thinking becomes important. None of what has been described so far is evidence of anything other than old construction. Cities are built on older cities. The Romans were excellent engineers by any historical measure. Medieval builders quarried extensively and in ways that were not always well documented. Stone survives. These are facts, and the official